So in this topic 4.5, I'll take you through how to construct a conceptual theoretical framework from an existing theory, and it is based on my research that I conducted on investigating environmental problems associated with illegal and unsustainable use of biodiversity resources from a protected area in Uganda, specifically the Rwenzori Mountains National Park. So the conceptual framework that I developed was from a single theory. So as earlier pointed out, concepts eventually can be able to be brought together to form theories or constructs and relationships. And when those different theories, constructs, and relationships are brought together, then they form a web which is called a conceptual or theoretical framework. In the process of developing a conceptual framework for my work, I found that the problems associated with the conservation of resources in a national park, specifically Rwenzori Mountains National Park, were complex, involved socio-cultural aspects, involved the ecological aspects, but also involved the economic aspects. So an interplay of those different factors influenced the illegal access of communities in the national park to extract the resources. And the complex nature of those issues in the Rwenzori Mountains was not possible to be investigated through a specific hypothesis. So it was not possible to locate either a suitable conceptual framework to guide the research into those problems. So what I did was to identify the theory of planned behavior. So this theory of planned behavior was identified to be a suitable theory, which was published in 1986 for the first time by Agen and Madden. And this specific theory, I chose it because it was relevant in the context of my research, because it explained the behavior of the people. In my context, the behavior of the local communities and how they were prompted to engage in illegal activities in the national park. And in that case, through this theory, I was able to understand that what underpins behavior, in this case, the illegal access of resources in the park, was a behavioral intention, which is very well elaborated in that theory. But also what is underpinning the behavioral intention are the attitudes, the subjective norms, and the perceived behavioral control. These aspects are also elaborated in that theory. But also underpinning the attitudes, the subjective norms, and the perceived behavior control are beliefs. And according to Agen and Madden, the beliefs are a behavior, are a normative, and also control. So these different aspects of this theory of planned behavior were very useful in my research to be able to explain why communities actually engage in illegal activities despite the different community interventions that have been put in place to address some of the assumed reasons that are underlying the behaviors of the communities in as far as access of resources illegally in the park is concerned. So this was very good in terms of the starting point. However, there were limitations of this specific theory of planned behavior in my situation. For example, I found that using the existing theory as a basis of the conceptual framework was both advantageous and also had pitfalls in my research. And one of the risks associated with the existing theory as a framework was relying heavily or often uncritically on just one single theory. And the limitation specifically for the theory of planned behavior is that it was not actually adequately explaining some of the conservation-related behaviors of the people. I found that there are a number of factors which resulted in the limitations of this theory, such as, for example, the theory relying specifically on the mindset of the individual in terms of attitudes, beliefs, and yet we find that there are some other factors which influence illegal resource use which are outside the mindset of the people. Then also, there was nothing to do with the knowledge base of the people, which we know from other literature that is a basis of behavior. And also, we found that in some cases it was very simplistic. So all those areas were identified, and we found that it was necessary to be able to identify some of other factors and introduce them into the theory of planned behavior so that we can be able to make it into a suitable conceptual framework to guide the investigation. And after elaborate considerations, eventually we were able to propose this as the conceptual framework that eventually I was able to adopt and utilize in my research. Looking at this figure, you'll see that underpinning uh, the center of this figure, we still have the theory of planned behavior as elaborated in the center, but he was able to add other factors that were articulated in the literature that influence the behavior of the communities towards illegal access and resource utilization. And therefore, he was able to come up with this conceptual framework to guide the research subsequently. Read the paper of this research here. You can be able to find the details, the step-by-step description of how I was able to go about identifying the theoretical framework for the research that guided the investigation of the problems associated with biodiversity conservation in the Rwenzori Mountain National Park. So read through this paper from beginning to the end. Here I have only presented the preliminary and the abstract, but it will be important for you to be able to read through it, and then you'll be able to get insights to help you to answer or to attempt this activity. So this activity requires you to base yourself on the research problem and the review of literature that you have already conducted from the previous assignments and construct a suitable conceptual or theoretical framework to underpin the study. So in this way, you should be able to propose that particular conceptual or theoretical framework, which when we meet, we can be able to discuss, see how you have been able to put in your thinking and where the limitations are. So this has been topic 4.5, and this is the last topic on the conceptual frameworks. There is one other thing that is not covered as a topic, but when we meet, I can be able to introduce it, is where you can be able to use the different tools to illustrate concepts in the conceptual framework. So those tools are mainly ingrained in what we call concept mapping as a tool for thinking. So when you do what we call concept mapping, it helps you to think through things. And there are different tools that you can have on the computer to be able to make illustrations, like the illustration that I showed you of my conceptual framework that guided my study. Thank you.